Okay, so if there was a fight between Van Damme and Steven Seagal, it could go both ways. Van Damme could, he's probably come out with punching and kicks, and if he landed some devastating ones on Seagal, it could be lights out for Seagal. But then in turn, people say Aikido's a weak combat. I disagree. Because see, Steven Seagal, if he could dodge Van Damme's attacks and then he could come in with an Aikido move, he could break Van Damme's wrist, he could break his arm, he could break his leg, and, it could be lights out for Van Damme. Um, Aikido is kind of like ninjutsu because I took ninjutsu. Well, it's different art, but in the sense that there's a lot of grapples in ninjutsu where you can break arms, legs, and pressure points to really take opponents down, hidden secret pressure points, such as an Aikido. That's why it doesn't matter how big your opponent is. I mean, so like if I was against the Big Show, or you know, I could just if I grabbed his wrist and I could put a pressure point, or you could just take him. You can take him down because no matter how big you are, how strong you are. For instance, if you ever seen the UFC fight versus one of the big UFC fighters, he got punched in the nose and he quit. The match was over because, or something, or in the neck or something. So there's pressure points all over the body. No matter how big you are, if you find those weakness, no matter how big somebody is, you can take them down. So but of course, you have to get access to the pressure points. If you can't, then you're in trouble. Uh, and they're thinking about doing Expendables 3. They asked Steven Seagal, and he said we'll see. So maybe he might do it, but there's a real life feud with Van Damme. I don't know exactly what happened. He was in a bar, and I don't know. Van Damme was well. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I think Van Damme, they were talking shit to each other, and Van Damme, was like, okay, bring it outside, and then Steven Gall did not choose to fight because of he's a very spiritual belief. If you see him in the interviews, he said he's God, and it's good. Well, depending on the right circumstances, it's always good to avoid the fight if you can. Because I learned that in Kung Fu, avoid the fight if you can. Use martial arts as a last resort. But I don't know. I don't know if Steven Seagal was talking shit to Van Damme, and I think that's what happened. And Van Damme's like, "Okay, bring it," and then Steven Seagal, refused to fight. And I think that was the whole issue. I think it was Steven Seagal talking trash to Van Damme. If I'm correct, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So I think if they do Expendables 3, they need to bring Jeff Speakman. They need to bring definitely Steven Seagal. And I say have all the cast. I mean, that'd be a shitload of cast from 1, 2, and 3, and upgrade the roster. Hell, you can make the movie fucking long, 2 or 3 hours, or I mean, if you want to make it the best action. Because those 80s movies were phenomenal. The Commando with Schwarzenegger, The Predator, they just had that uber violence in the 80s it's kind of not brought today, in a sense. You don't have movies like Commando. They do Rambo again, and they're going to do another Rambo. Die Hard series have been great. They're awesome movies. But they try to do good with the reboots and remakes, and sometimes it fails. I mean, Footloose, the original, was a classic, but you looked up the new one. It was a different take, a different spin, but it just didn't have that quality as the original. Same with the new Spider-Man. I saw the new Spider-Man. I was disappointed. I expected a lot more. The one with Tobey Maguire, the first one, was much better. It's the new one was a little different take on it, but the actor wasn't as good as Tobey Maguire, and I think that was one of the pitfalls. And the other pitfall was I don't know if the story was too rushed or too short, or it just there's just a lot more elements in the original Spider-Man with the Tobey Maguire that made that Spider-Man better than the Amazing Spider-Man. The 3D was awesome though, but I was a little disappointed. I preferred the one with Tobey Maguire. That Spider-Man was better. Yeah, if you ever seen The Perfect Weapon with Jeff Speakman, he's a real martial artist too. He's really good. So they should get Jeff Speakman. And who other martial artists they could get? They could get Jackie Chan. Shoot, I can't think of any more. Let's see what else. I think they should remake Resident Evil 2 and 3, and then of course in high def. No, I'm not a remake. Maybe well, I mean, because they did Code Veronica in HD, but no matter, even with HDs, the graphics still didn't live up. If they did, remember how they did the original Resident Evil on GameCube? They kind of remade it with the better graphics. Well, they kind of just remade it, not only with better graphics. Well, they need to do that with 2 and 3, and I think the old school Survivor hands of Resident Evil will be happy. Maybe they can add a little more elements. Or what they could do when they have Resident Evil 7. I don't think Resident Evil is going to end, because, I mean, you can just keep on adding, and there's so much story, as you can see in Resident Evil 5 from 1960. I think they should do Resident Evil 7, since put on the Xbox 720, since 4 times more powerful. Take all the characters from the whole game, make all campaign from 1960s, whatever, and tell how the beginning of the outbreak, even past, tell how the Umbrella Corporation formed, and have, maybe you can drive vehicles in the game, you know, so that would be a first in Resident Evil. I mean, instead of just like shooting from vehicles. But if they do Resident Evil 7, they should go all the way as much as they can, because it's put on 720, they should push it all the way as they can. I think they should have all the characters in the game, because there's like so many characters. I played all the Resident Evils, you know, from Code Veronica, there's, you know, those characters that existed in the first Resident Evil, was telling the story. Well, those characters appear in Resident Evil Code Veronica. So, and the Resident Evil movies kind of have nothing to do with the game, because I mean, they're trying to, they're cash cowing it off the game. You know, they're trying to put like some elements, you know, from the game to the movie, which is good, but there's no Alice character in the original Resident Evil. I mean, it's kind of cool. They're kind of doing anything with the movie, but I think if they made it like, they can make the Resident Evil 1 game into the movie like it exactly was. Put that shit in IMAX and 3D. Have those cyber stalks jump out of the window. Have the fucking bees in the mansion. Have the whole mansion. Have the zombies coming out. I think that would probably be the fucking scariest movie ever, if done right. They should do it like that. I mean, hell, I think that movie would be fucking creepy as hell. Get that creepy ass mansion, just make it into a movie. I mean, that'd be fucking awesome. Alright, so 10 minutes is almost up. So I'm just gonna talk a little more. So yeah, I think the Van Damme Seagal fight could go both ways. But if Van Damme's quick and land those martial arts, those amazing kicks he has, it could be lights out for Seagal. No matter if because he has to get those Aikido moves, those takedowns, but if you can't do that in a skilled martial artist, it's over. So all martial arts are awesome, just used in an effective way. I mean, I don't think there's one more greater martial arts than another, because they're all different and they all can be devastating used in an effective way. Now, if you have a person that knows multiple martial arts, then that's even better. Then you're really in trouble. They actually got some grandmasters that know a combination of martial arts, and they're like 5 foot or 4 foot or whatever, you know. But they're like grandmasters. And people said, you know, I talked to one of my Japanese friends. He said, like, you could take Bruce Lee out because he knows a combination of martial arts, where Bruce Lee only knows one martial arts. All right. So put your comments in below and let me know. Peace.